In this lesson, you are going to learn how to solve a system of equations by graphing. So remember that a system is two or more equations, and we're just going to do some examples. So the first example, we have the system y equals x plus 1, and we have the equation y equals 3x minus 7. So to make it a little easier on you, I'm going to use colors. So the top equation I am going to put in red. So you want to make sure that you're doing this on graph paper so you don't have to draw your own grids. In y equals x plus 1, the y-intercept is 1, and that's right there. That's the y-intercept. So I start at 1 on my y-axis, and my slope is the number in front of x, and that's 1. So that means I rise 1 and I run 1. So I go up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. And I continue that pattern throughout the grid. And I'm going to continue the pattern in the other direction as well. And that gives me enough to graph my line. Now hopefully by now you understand that the solution to a system is the point where two lines intersect. So that's our first line. And now I'm going to work on graphing my second line, and hopefully I will see where they intersect, and that is the solution. So my second line, my y-intercept is -7. So I start at -7 on the y-axis. My slope is the coefficient in front of the x, which is 3. We want it as a fraction, 3 over 1. That tells me I rise 3 and I run 1. So I'm going to go up 3 and right 1, and I'm going to continue that pattern throughout the whole grid. That gives me enough points to graph. And then the solution to the system is where the 2 points intersect. So my solution, where the 2 lines intersect. My solution is right there. Now this is where many students make mistakes. I am going to label my solution, and when I put my solution down, remember that the x value comes first, the y value is second. Remember the x-axis goes left and right, the y-axis goes up and down. So when we put our solution, we count where the x is. So the x is at 4. And then we count where the y is. The y is at 5. So my solution is the point 4, 5. Do not get that confused with the slope being rise over run. Let's do a second example. For my second example, I have the system y equals x plus 1, and x plus y equals 3, -3. Alright, so in the top equation, I'll do that one in black. My y-intercept is 1, so I start at 1 on the y-axis. My slope is 1 over 1. It's the coefficient in front of the x, so that means I rise 1 and I run 1. So I continue that pattern throughout the whole grid, and I continue it in the opposite direction as well. And that should give me enough to get a good graph there. And you should be using a straight edge to draw your lines. Now, the problem with the second equation right here is that it's not in slope-intercept form. So we have to go back to what I have already taught you and isolate the y value, which means I have to subtract x from each side. So the x's cancel, and I have y equals, remember we want our x's to come first, so it's negative x plus negative 3. Or you could put negative x minus 3 if you wanted. So now we have to graph what we know. So my y-intercept is negative 3, and my slope is negative 1 over 1. So that tells me I go down 1, right 1. So I continue the pattern in both directions. So I go up 1, left 1. And that should be enough to graph my line. And my solution is where the two lines intersect. So we can see that they intersect right here. So that's my solution. Remember, the solution is the point that works in both equations here and here. So now I put my solution in terms of a coordinate x comma y. My x-axis is left and right. My y-axis is up and down. So this coordinate is, the x value is negative 2, and the y value is negative 1. So my solution is negative 2, negative 1. Now let's quickly review how to check if the solution is right. So to check, I'm going to rewrite the system. So the system was y equals x plus 1, and x plus y equals negative 3. So what I'm doing right now is I am checking to make sure that my solution is right. Alright, so I said that my solution was negative 2, negative 1. So my x value is negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2 in for the x in both equations. My y value is negative 1. So I'm going to put negative 1 in for my y values. Alright, and then copy the rest of the problem down. So we have negative 1 equals negative 2 plus 1, and we want to know if that works. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, so yes, that works. On the other one, we have negative 2 plus negative 1 equals negative 3. We want to know if that works. Does negative 2 plus negative 1 equal negative 3? Yes, it does, so that one works as well. So we should always check to make sure that our answer works in both equations. Alright, now we're going to do another example. And on this one, what we're going to do is I'm going to start you off on the example, and then you are going to tell me what the answer is in the Google form that you fill out. So for this example, we have, this is example 3. We have the system y equals 4x minus 8 and y equals 3x minus 7. So to start this one, we are going to graph the y-intercept here first, so that's negative 8. And my slope is rise over run, so I'm going to rise 4, run 1, rise 4, run 1, and I continue that pattern throughout the grid. And I'm going to continue it in the other direction as well. And I don't really need to go too much further, so down 4 and left 1. That gives me enough to graph. And again, you should be using a straight edge, so yours should look nicer than mine. My other equation is y equals 3x minus 7, so I start at my y-intercept of negative 7, and I rise 3 and run 1, rise 3, run 1, rise 3, run 1, rise 3, run 1. So these are awfully close together. But you should see where they intersect. The solution is where they intersect right here. And so your job is to fill in the values of the solution. So I'm going to ask you to write in the solution on the Google form. Now hopefully I've made the Google Forms easier for you to access. And so now I'm going to give you the URL, and I made it a bit.ly, so hopefully that will help. So the URL that you need to go to is bit.ly/solve-by-graph. Hopefully that will make it easier for you to find the Google form. Please do that now and answer the very brief questions that I ask.